Hi, everyone. Great to be with you. What a fabulous day. Various perspectives and insights and presentations. So, I have the honor of kind of wrapping us up here. And so, I'm going to start with our learning objectives. The first thing I want to cover is the number one skill that I think that we need to cultivate today. And then I'm going to look at how we can collaboratively shape the future together. And a huge thank you to Angeline and Genevieve, who have done just an outstanding job with putting this together. So I just want to really honor both of you for the work that you've done here and thank you for the opportunity to be here. So I am Dr. Rachel Wood. I'm an LPC. I have a PhD in cyber psychology. And my whole heart is to create a container for thoughtful cross-discipline dialogue and collaboration in the way that AI is impacting mental health. So here's where I'm going to start. AI tends to elicit pretty big feelings. And maybe over the past few hours of you being in this conference, you've had some of those big feelings come to the forefront. And I like to start by saying that wherever you're at in your journey with AI and therapy and mental health and trying to figure out this world is totally okay. And that there's no rush to get to some future place with it, but simply to really honor where you're at, your thoughts, your feelings, your questions with it. And so I want to start by framing our time together, the next few minutes together with that. And along those lines, I also like to start with a little bit of humor. Sometimes all of this can be quite heavy. So my moment of levity is this. I have developed the official Freakout spectrum, the AI Freakout spectrum. This took a lot of years of research. But the truth is, like, when you are in this space and you're talking to these people who are in the AI mental health world, there's this really huge spectrum of feelings of how people are approaching it. And all of that is okay. Everyone's on their own journey. And maybe do you see yourself in like maybe one of these little bubbles, this hilarious baby? I always like the middle one. Are we still talking about AI? Because all I do is talk about AI. So I hope you're on the other side of this laughing. Uh, all right. Here's where we're gonna kind of dive into right now. I really like to talk about AI from a place of creating a container for deep questions to be asked, for really thoughtful reflection on this whole space. And so even during this time together, I'm going to give you some space, particularly at the end, to kind of reflect on what you've gained over the past few hours in this conference and what you're going to gain right now so that you can begin to metabolize it and assimilate it into the way that you're approaching this space. So, in the learning objectives, I told you that we're going to look at the number one skill that I think we need right now. And this is what it is. Dun, 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 dun. I think we need to raise our capacity for nuance and paradoxical tension. Yeah, that is what I think is the most important thing right now. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is the most important thing. So, if you look at this kind of beautiful beach rock picture, the path that I would call nuance is this sandy path in the middle. And on the rocks on the left, I would call optimism, and the rocks on the right, I would call concern. And I think that it's really important that we are walking this sandy path in the middle that holds a space for both of these. But these are kind of paradoxical approaches. And so, in order for us to hold this space well, we need to raise our comfort level with nuance and raise our comfort level with paradoxical thinking and tension. So, let's look at what that means in terms of what is, on one side of these rocks. So, on one side of these rocks is being for AI, which I imagine a lot of us here feel. AI in mental health can increase accessibility, which is really important. We want that. I actually just had a conversation with someone yesterday who I hear more and more stories that are quite profound and moving of people who have had significant shifts in their life and their mental health due to interacting with a chatbot. And that doesn't make headlines quite as much as the other side of things, but it is legitimately happening. And maybe it's happened for you, but it's pretty profound when someone who says, I haven't had access to mental health is able to engage in a way with a support chatbot that really helps reshape things for them. So, another really awesome benefit here that I'm optimistic about is having AI be continuous care, offering this kind of continuous care loop that helps people even in between sessions if they're working with a therapist. And then my biggest hope for AI is that it is a bridge to connection, a bridge, not a destination unto itself. And so those are just some of the things I'm sure if you were sitting here with me, one on one, you would add some things to this list of what we're optimistic and hopeful about in this space. And of course, we're going to look at the other side of this. There are things that we are concerned about, and very rightly so. The safety in terms of the other side of headlines that we've been seeing, where there are just absolutely heartbreaking situations that have really unfolded in connection with chatbots. So, safety, privacy is a huge concern here. And then ethics. I mean, think about the mitigation of bias and having AI that we make sure is, culturally competent. There's a lot of things here that we are holding, both the optimism and the concern. And so, again, that's why I think our number one skill here is to raise our comfort level with uncertainty, raise our capacity for thinking in really nuanced, complex ways about this whole topic. Another way to kind of say paradoxical tension or, nuance is ambivalence. Now, ambivalence is not indifference and it's not ambiguity. Ambivalence is holding simultaneous opposing cognitive or emotional orientations towards something. So, essentially, mixed feelings. I feel this and that. It's what I just described to you in terms of how we feel for and against, what's happening with AI right now in mental health. And I want us to look at, every time I go through this slide, I forget that I have to click through each one, each one. And I always want to go back so that it just shows up all at once. And I never go back and fix it. Okay. So holding ambivalence is, the skill that I'm talking about us really increasing. And there are two strategies for this. You can have a reactive strategy towards ambivalence or a proactive strategy. Very quickly, the reactive strategy is essentially avoidance. Like, let's just not talk about AI. Like, let's just not talk about it at all in mental health because it's too complex. It's actually quite, unsettling. And so let's avoid it. Okay. That's one way. Another reactive strategy is called domination, which is taking both of your, opposing orientations. And because there's such a high cognitive load in holding the tension, we seek relief. Like we seek an emotional relief and release, and we collapse into one side or the other. So I'm for and against it, but that's a lot of work to hold that gray space. So I'm just going to be against it. Like I'm going to let that side dominate and I'm going to just talk about all the bad things and I'm just going to read research about all the negatives and really just dominate that side of it. And I get why people do this because it's easier when you can just kind of move into one space instead of holding the tension. However, I want to encourage us to have proactive strategies. And let me talk us through that. So, a proactive strategy means that two things can be true at once. And when you think about this, we can extrapolate this to all of life. I mean, there's no one and nothing in life that is ever just one thing, right? This is every area of your life is complex and nuanced. So when we talk about this in the realm of AI ambivalence, this is a skill that's going to translate and serve us in a number of ways. So here's some proactive strategies. The first one is compromise. And compromise, I would say probably this is more so where I'm at right now. Compromise is the research shows really attributed to forward momentum, which is a great thing. So when we engage in compromise, it helps us move forward. But compromise is this: if I was in a perfect world and I had a magic wand, I would wave that wand and every single person on the planet who wanted mental health support with a person would have access to it. That would be ideal, right? And if they wanted to see that therapist, they could afford it several times a week if they wanted, all these things. That would be kind of my magic wand. That is not where we live in this world, and I do not have a magic wand. So, kind of my area of the next best thing is I want to support people who are using AI for mental health to make it as safe, accessible, and ethical as possible. And so part of, that compromise is looking at the fact that hundreds of millions of people are using chatbots for emotional support. So how can we help make that a safer experience? And then also, holding the compromise is holding both these things. There's some trade-offs, and yet I'm working to hold a space for, my excitement and also my apprehension. Now, another proactive strategy the research shows us is holism. And holism is kind of this level above compromise, if you will. And it's saying that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So instead of looking at AI as a black and white, good and bad thing, it's coming up higher and really moving into acceptance, mindfulness. This is a place where a lot of creativity is born, where we actually see something brand new from this space, as opposed to just the separate parts of good and bad or black and white or for and against. And so this holism is a place where I think we're going to be moving into more, that is going to bring about a lot of creativity, which is going to be cool to see. As I said, millions of people are using AI. So our goal here is to raise our comfort level with uncertainty and help shape a safe and ethical future. And if you're here as a mental health professional, that's your expertise, right? I mean, you know what safety and ethical guidelines look like. And so it's important for us to have a really prominent seat at the table in shaping this future. Because what's at stake here? I mean, what's at stake is that we have future AI native generations. I mean, you've seen that there are, toys now that have AI built into them, like a chatbot that talks back and forth with kids. This is not even future. This is right now. And this is why we want to really be leaning in to helping shape the future of this for those of us who are here right now and those of us who are coming. Character AI, which, if you're familiar with, this is an AI companion platform, has 20 million monthly users, and more than half of them are under the age of 24. So this is really a big thing. What's at stake is that our future generations may have fundamentally different emotional muscles than we do and different relational muscles than we do. And I'm not trying to say this is good or bad. I'm simply saying that is likely a fact of where we're headed. And so, how do we build AI that actually helps people practice relational skills and practice self-regulation skills, and acts as a bridge toward relationship and not a destination unto itself. Another stat here is 52% of 13 to 17-year-olds regularly use AI companions. So you can imagine how this is already shaping the way they view relationship, the way they engage with people. And if we just let some of these kind of larger general purpose models dominate, then I'm concerned that we're not gonna be having AI that people are using that helps them learn relational skills instead of atrophying those relational skills by feeding a one-directional relationship. An AI chatbot isn't going to ask anything of the user in terms of compromise or patience or negotiation, all these really important relational skills. And so eh, all of that to say it's really important that we do find a collaborative way forward. And a collaborative way forward looks like really robust cross discipline dialogue. That's part of what's amazing about this event right now that Shield has put on, which is bringing together, some mental health professionals. We had, amazing kind of presentation from Shift Health AI with Brian Muse and David Wolski to give us really an insight into how everybody is doing this and how we can do it together. Because that I believe is the way forward to have, ethical and safe AI. Let me just make a quick distinction here that there is a pretty big difference, a very big difference between general purpose LLMs and AI versus fit for purpose. And the reason that I am recommending and championing this idea of collaboration is because we need to be building fit for purpose models. General purposes like ChatGPT. This is not made for mental health support. OpenAI is very clear about that, but people are using it for that. And partially because we don't quite have the amount of alternatives that we need right now. So a fit for purpose model, like if you attended Shift Health's presentation, that's an example of a fit for purpose model that is built with guidelines, guardrails, ethical considerations, safety in mind. And that, if people are using AI for mental health support, that is what I want them. I would hope that they are using. And this whole idea of a collaborative way forward is really about listening. It's really about different perspectives getting together and listening to one another and giving input on the expertise from their perspective. So, as a clinician myself and a therapist, I'm not a technologist. So anytime I get to hear technologists talk about this, like Brian and David did, I am leaning in on the edge of my seat because I want to know these things so that I can incorporate them into my framework of understanding and therefore give my input as a clinician. And this is what you as a mental health professional, you are doing as well, or I hope you're doing, is bringing your expertise to the table because we all, researchers, technologists, legal experts, this whole realm, clinicians need to be talking together so that we can help fit for purpose models really be what people are using going forward. Okay, let me then, in light of that, share with you one format in which you can engage in some of this. Obviously, Shield right here in this conference has been an excellent example of that. And also, we have the AI Mental Health Collective, which just recently launched last month and is so exciting to have this kind of cross discipline dialogue going on so that we can have clinicians, technologists, researchers, legal experts, engineers, all these different people saying, here's my perspective and here's my perspective. How do we bring this all together to make again, the whole greater than the sum of the parts. So this is something if you are interested in, being a part of in any way, that you're welcome to visit. There's a link right there that you can kind of check check in on that. Okay, we're heading towards the end of our time together. And I'd like to leave you with a few questions for reflection. I'm noticing right now that number one is missing. So that's neat. There it is. Wow. Okay. There's number one. Let's start with number one. I want you to just take a moment and think through this whole experience that you've been through with this conference, all the input that you've heard, what you've learned, and just spend a minute thinking like, where am I comfortable with AI? And where am I uncomfortable? And then where do I need more information? Like maybe I'm not sure I'm uncomfortable in some area because I don't have the information that I need. And if that is the case, I would encourage you to reach out to, anyone you've connected with here at the conference and, any of the presenters or, Genevieve and Angeline, please reach out to myself. Get the information that you need so that where maybe you're uncomfortable, you can find more of a comfort level. The second question for reflection would be, in what ways am I experiencing fear or anxiety, either personally or professionally, about AI? And how might that be influencing my decisions? I'm a big believer in you being wherever you're at on your journey. And so if you are kind of sitting here going, yeah, I still feel kind of pretty against AI, that's fine. But is it coming just from a place of fear or anxiety? Because we really don't want that to color our decisions in this. I think the fear and anxiety or the concern or hesitation really just needs more information to it. Because if you bring more information into that fear, it actually can kind of shift from being fear to being just knowledgeable concern, you know, or something like that. And so maybe be reflecting in yourself how might I, be making decisions that are grounded, that aren't grounded yet. And then the third one is, who can I talk with? Colleagues, supervisors, anyone here at the conference, all of that. Who can you talk with to process this? Because in some ways, we are right here together on the cutting edge, leaning forward into this space, but it is coming like a freight train, and you know that. And so, this is really moving into society in a way that is absolutely shifting the bedrock of society in a relational way. So, who can we be talking to about these things? And then the last thing I want to end with here before we move into some questions is just an opportunity for you to get involved should you want to get involved more. And at the end of this, Angeline will also be, letting us know how we can get involved with Shield. And for getting involved kind of with the endeavors that I'm embarking on, I have a free newsletter that, boom, there's the website. You can go to that for the free newsletter. And then also, if you're interested in the Mental Health Collective, we would love to have you join us. Again, the same website. If you go to my website, there's a place there that says you can learn more about the collective. So those are just different ways that you can kind of be a part of this, should you so choose. And want to just end by saying thank you. Thank you for spending time together. Thank you for thinking through all of this. And I personally would love to hear from you. I love these conversations. This is kind of my whole world, if you will. And so, yeah, I think now the next step is I'm going to open this up to some questions. And then at the end of that, we will have Angeline give closing remarks.
All right.
So you just
Just
need
want
to
to
yeah,
hi
go ahead.
there. Yeah, I have to run in just a sec because I have a top of the hour session, but I just want to say thank you. This was lovely. Appreciate the good work you're doing. The way you're trying to synthesize and hold the ambivalence is really, I think, a great lesson. And yeah, because I fear one of my fears is that there's so much I don't know, like, there's a lot of feeling around it, there's a lot of money around
Yeah.
it, which might be kinda like both and like, both in terms of like, "Okay, this is my livelihood. Oh, but we're gonna save the world," and so I just appreciate the way you're trying to hold both and trying to find good solutions. It's yeah, and I'm just with you in the struggle. So that's mostly what I wanted to say. And thank you, for your position in the field. Yeah,
Oh, Albert, a million thank yous right back to you. I so appreciate that feedback. I appreciate knowing, just the collaboration in being colleagues that we have together in this. So thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, thank you for your engagement all day as well, I have to say, Albert. It was really fantastic. I want to ask you, Rachel, what have you learned from your first month in the AI collective?
1 month in. I I'll tell you personally what has surprised me the most, Angeline, is the level of interest. I mean, candidly, let me just say that I didn't when I started this, I didn't know if people would be interested. I just thought, "I'm interested in this," and so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a group." And then I was like, "Wow, there's a lot of people interested in this." So I think that what I've learned is that this is just such a timely and important topic for us to be diving into, and I've just learned, immense amounts from the conversations that I'm having with other people that help me, further my perspective.
I think so too, and then I'll let you have a turn, Genevieve. It was the same with Shield, right? That blew me away, like how much interest there is, and of course, you never know if there's a trend, if it's actually a trend or it's just the algorithm from LinkedIn. It's the only social media, but I do see a lot of movement toward like collectives and collaboration. I have the feeling that people are figuring that out, and that's one of the things about Shield. We're like, we're going to make a collection even of collectives, right? Like we'll have everyone in. We can help the collectives find their members, that's the way forward. That's the way for people to really get more voice. Yeah, so Genevieve, I'll be quiet and you
The
can have.
collective of collectives. I
Yeah,
love
not
that.
only
It's
collectives,
so
but
great.
we also individuals and organizations. We're not in
Love
competition. That's the message.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I didn't have any specific questions. I just wanted to hop on and say thank you. And I think I love the talk about ambivalence. I know we talked about it earlier or last week actually. And I think it's important to have these conversations. And I love Angeline talking about the collective of collectives and just trying to like these conversations and thinking about like a year ago. I think it was a little more than a year ago, or no, it was earlier this year, Angeline. We had the first conference. Was it
Yeah,
this
it
year?
was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was in February.
Just how much, as Rachel said, like how much interest there is and how much discussion and how much is taken off from this. And I love to see other people who have a mental health and psychology background involved in these discussions.
Yeah. It's so important, Genevieve. You're absolutely right. And I think we have to be increasingly involved in these conversations because we have a really beautiful picture of the future that we want. And so we need to kind of speak out about that and be a part of shaping it.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And, we're seeing new things emerge and new, social stuff happening because of AI. And we need to pay attention to this as well. And, like the relationships people are developing with it, stuff like that. So I think it's just having all of us together and having these conversations and having them in real time as this stuff is happening is really important.
Yeah.
I had to say also it's really important to hear the different generations because I'm always, spending usually it's normal. Not necessarily normal, but people spend time with people that are similar to them. I'm surrounded by people who agree we need to be really careful about AI, but then you have to talk to young people who somehow see much more benefit and you're like, yeah, maybe I should be a little bit less strict about this or at least I need to explain this in a different way or accept the benefits of it as, as you said, in your talk, like accept the benefits a lot more and say, I just need to find a way to give my messaging about being careful as well. So yeah, that's another thing that's really hit me, right? Like over the last 9 months is, make sure to talk to different generations as well.
Angeline, the research right now on what young people are saying about AI is jaw dropping if you haven't looked into it. 80% of Gen Zers say they would marry an AI companion. Yeah. I mean, they're just it's part of their life. It's not even kind of a thing like, should I do this or not? It's like, yeah, of course I'm chatting with an AI and I have an AI that kind of knows everything about me. And I mean, they really share at incredibly deep levels because it feels non-judgmental. It's always there for them. I've heard young people say, I don't have to burden my friends, quote unquote, because, I can just talk to this AI about it. And so this is being adopted in the younger generations at just astounding rates that we need to be aware of.
Have you
Wow.
seen the Reddit thread on this, Rachel?
I have seen so many Reddit threads on this, Genevieve.
The one I saw is like 15,000 like
Okay.
comments deep. I'll have to find you the link for it. And people are actually talking about going to fertility clinics and having
Yes.
children with their AIs.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's
I've seen that.
I'm in Italy, and in Italy it happened, and I don't remember which tool it was. I'm gonna say Replica, but I'm not sure if it was Replica or Character AI. We've got a government that's more active than most in terms of like privacy and AI protections. And at some point, they somehow sued. I'll say Replica. I don't remember, because it was of the sexual content. And they say, "No, this is not allowed. You can't have sexual content to minors or something." So the Replica, they just turned it off, like, from one day to the next for all the users. And you can imagine what kind when we have a lot of mental health professionals here, so you can imagine what reaction. I mean, that was a serious, serious thing, and I think that this is what I think of. I said during my talk, I'm a former CFO, so I see risk everywhere, and I just that's the thing, right? They don't understand it can change from one second to the next, and then in the end, I think the compromise was they put it back, like, for the users outside of Italy, they put it back for, like, the legacy users, and the new ones couldn't. But, that's the thing, and I think also ChatGPT-5 came out, and the personalities of the companions changed, and there's this massive risk, like Bear wrote toxic unconditional support, and yeah, I mean,
We have seen essentially we've witnessed these public grief cycles. And, when ChatGPT 5 came out and people were grieving, who become very connected to 4.0, I think it was 4.0, and you know, people spend a lot of time, some people engaging in kind of fine-tuning their own experience to be exactly what they want it to be. So you feel like you've lost a lot of work. You feel like you've lost a best friend, a confidant, sometimes a partner, a romantic partner. I mean, overnight that can be gone. And so this is actually a very serious grief that some people go through.
yeah. I mean, this was, Megan Garcia when she spoke at our conference in February, that she was talking about the she didn't know that she sent her son to a therapist, like, she knew something was wrong, but nobody knew about this, right? Like, the therapist didn't figure out, and he didn't say, and she took his phone away, like, all his devices, because she thought he was on social media or something, and what she said was, that's what parents need to understand, for example, you should not just take away the device because then it really feels like a loss. She says she knows it now, but if you don't know, so yeah, it's a whole new kind of risk that I don't envy mental health professionals that have to, as Genevieve wrote earlier in a comment, you're kind of chasing harms and changes that you can't even maybe have thought about, right?
Yeah, and just for reference there with Angeline, what you're mentioning, Megan Garcia is the mother of Sewell Setzer, who died by suicide in 2024 in connection with usage with character AI chat. And so one thing that I really recommend that all mental health professionals are doing, not even all doctors, also everybody who's working with people, your intake assessment needs to have a line that says, what role, if any, does AI play in your life? Because that can open up a conversation that may never be opened up otherwise. And it's very important that people feel they have a safe place to share. They could be very attached to an AI. And so I think our intake assessments need to reflect the reality of the time we live in.
I would 100% agree with that. I think it's really important because you don't really think of it when you're doing an intake assessment. You do the standard, the psychosocial assessments, the history. But yeah, that's a new question that really needs to be asked is what role does AI plays? Because as you mentioned, the attachment is real. Like the relationship might be called a synthetic relationship, but that attachment and the feelings associated with those emotions, those are very real. And they need to be taken seriously and not just be kinda like, "Oh, you fell in love with your AI." Like, because you do see those videos online of, people doing that, and it's used for public ridicule, but as a clinician, being aware that these are very real things, these are very real feelings that our clients are going through, and very real things that they're facing, especially for adolescents who their brains aren't quite developed yet. They don't have that frontal lobe development. Their emotional centers are going wild.
That's right, Genevieve. It's so important as clinicians for us. And of course, we do this. This is ingrained in our ethical approach to be highly sensitive to the fact that this is a very real experience for them and a very real attachment and to to respect that. And yet, here's where that ambivalence comes in. We're also holding the space of thinking, oh goodness, I'd really like to help usher this person into real world
Mhm,
human connections. So we're holding that while also helping them explore. I always like to let's look at some of maybe this through attachment theory. So, what does this chatbot provide the client in terms of attachment? Maybe it's the secure base or the
mhm.
idealized caregiver or the idealized partner. And because you can really create this chatbot to be whatever you want it to be. And so the reality of real life is hard when you can't create other people to be the idealized partner or the idealized caregiver. And so working through this in an attachment way of kind of building their own healthy attachment, their own self-regulation and secure base, while also building up that external ecosystem of support with friends and family and school and hobbies and faith communities, all these different things.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, and at the end of the day, the AI is safe. I'm saying that in quotes because it's not going to provide judgment. It's not going to hurt you, and especially kids who have gone through bullying or, may have had neglectful caregivers growing up. It opens that up for them to just easily form these attachments with some AI who it's like, "Hey, this is the first person who's really been nice to me. This is the first person who said anything good to me or given me a compliment." And that's all very powerful.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is, and that's what we're hearing is people saying, "I've never felt loved or known or seen as much as I feel that with a chatbot."
Mhm. And it's there 24 hours. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't stop. It kinda going back to the Terminator, I think I mentioned this in the last one. There was a scene in Terminator 2 where Linda Hamilton's character is talking about how the Terminator is actually the best father for her son because it would always protect him, it was always there for it, and it didn't sleep. And we're not quite seeing the Terminator yet, but it is that idea of, no 24/7, the availability and the support is there.
Yeah, yeah.
And this goes back to this discussion, just to end on a positive note, because I feel like we're no, this is why collaboration is important. I personally, as I said at the beginning, I'm not a mental health professional in any way. I learned so much today. I think mental health professionals are the ones that need to be involved the most. Genevieve knows I've said this from the very beginning. They just need to be, because there's the personal societal implications, of these AI tools and just collaboration. I'm very happy. A lot of you were here for a lot of the sessions. We had a lot of engagement today. And I hope that's really a springboard for the AI Mental Health Collective and Shield as a collective of the collectives. And because because I said in my talk, the tech companies are most heard, their voices are most heard because they figured out that all of us in the entire world have basically the same needs or similar enough needs that they can give us a tool that's going to meet those needs. You can't blame them from this sense, right? So their voices are louder because they're going through these same tools. So we need to really work together and collectively raise our voices and say, okay, do your thing, but we need to do our thing. We need to be heard. And we also need to shape society, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I will officially close this wonderful event. Thank you, Genevieve. That was mostly you. I just provided the the tools. So amazing. Thank you. And the recordings will be available in a week or two, depending on how fast my tech guy is.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. Both of you, thank you for creating this space. Yeah.
And thank you, Rachel. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and speaking.
Happy to be part of it. Honored to be part of it. I love these conversations.
Me too. And thank you to all the folks who have been in the chat. And I think if we had to give an award for like the most active, it might be Albert, because I've seen his comments and everything, and I appreciate that so much.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good day or evening.